the applicant, the owner, a surrounding property owner, or someone else. So I will start with Alex Barnett. And Alex, if you could unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No
As you said, my name is Alex. I am the permit manager for Atlantic Sign Company, and I'm the applicant representing Mount Washington Presbyterian Church.
Okay, great. Welcome. Next is Claire Nowak. Claire, if you could unmute.
Hi, I'm Claire Nowak. I'm the Director of Operations at Mount Washington Presbyterian Church. So I think we're the tenants.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, great. Welcome. Tanya Edwards.
Good morning. I am a member of the church, and I am also on the Buildings and Finance Committee as an elder.
Okay, great. Welcome. Kelly Cassidy is also here. Kelly.
Hello, I am a neighbor to the church. My property is adjacent to theirs, and I'm representing myself and some other neighbors who are not able to attend this morning.
Sure. Okay. Welcome. I see we have Trey Sheldon here from the Department of City Planning. Welcome, Trey.
Good morning, all.
And then I have another person in here under the Menzes.
Yeah, that's our last name. This is Dana Menz. And I live close to the property that's by the back driveway.
Okay, great. And Dana, do you think that you'll be providing any testimony here today? Or just observing?
I am not sure. I think it depends on how the conversation goes.
Okay, sure. Just a
Thanks.
heads up, when and if you do want to provide any testimony, I'll ask you to activate your camera at
Okay.
that time. Just like to give people a heads up that they may be on camera. But let's go ahead and get into it. I need to read through our hearing script. This will basically cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the October 16th, 2024 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the city. Again, I'll be presiding over the hearing. The case before us today is case number ZHUV240006. That's 6474 Beechmont Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing unless someone has submitted testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So for our purposes here today, I'll allow the church and Mr. Barnett, who's working on the sign package for the church, I'll allow you to tell me about the project, any background you think is important, what exactly the relief is that you're requesting and why you think that relief is appropriate. And then of course, anything else you think you would like to tell me. You all can orient that presentation however you'd like. So Mr. Barnett, Ms. Nowak, and Ms. Edwards, I'll allow all of you, one of you can speak, all of you can speak. It's really completely up to you. But again, just typically people will touch on those issues that I just laid out when talking about why this relief should be approved. I'll then move to the public. So I'll give any neighboring property owners that would like an opportunity to be heard. I'll give them an opportunity at that time to tell me, to provide any testimony regarding this application. I'll then turn it over to the Department of City Planning, the prepared staff report. I'll allow Mr. Sheldon to provide any testimony in addition to that staff report if you would like. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition and then make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses here. So anyone that intends on providing any testimony, asking any questions, making any comments, doing anything other than just strictly observing, the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if you know that is you and you'd like to say something now, I'm going to collectively swear all those people in together. For anyone who's not sure, I can always swear you in later. But for now, anyone that knows they're going to provide some testimony, if you could take yourself off mute, raise your right hand. I'll need everyone to answer out loud to this question. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, who is going to be taking the lead on presenting the application here?
I will, Mr. Sturkey.
Okay, floor is yours, Mr. Burnett.
So this proposal is a branding update for the church. They have updated their logo and are planning to. The big proposal in this is to update the ground sign for the church with a new digital display. The monochrome digital display that it currently utilizes is outdated and replacement parts are virtually impossible to come by. So it's just a matter of time before this sign becomes dilapidated to a point of not being usable. And in an effort to avoid that and keep the community and the property looking nice, they're proposing a new sign. And through conversations with Claire and Tanya, I discovered that there was actually neighbors that are in favor of this sign as it helps with lighting on that driveway. And they feel like it offers a sense of security. So it helps illuminate the area at night, but it also utilizes photo cell technology to adjust to the ambient light and can use a timer as well to be dimmed or turned off at certain times. We're asking specifically for a use variance to allow internal illumination to update this ground sign to a new modern digital display. And then we're asking for a numeric variance to allow an additional identification sign to the existing wall, sign that is engraved into the wall. And then finally, we are asking for a dimensional variance of 16 square feet to allow the new sign and for it to be for the design to be scaled. It required some extra square footage to be added. Tanya or Claire, do you have anything you would like to add to this?
I think that, did you mention that we are moving the sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I did not, but that'd be, if you want to go ahead.
Well, and Claire can really address this, but so I won't say much about it, but it's going to be closer to the street. We have two roads that are on either side of our church off of Beechmont. And one is an entry and one's an exit. But there are people that get mixed up and go in the exit, which is one way out. And so we want to move the sign. The new location will be closer to the entrance driveway.
Got it. So the existing ground sign will be removed and the new ground sign will be installed further. Would that be sort of northwest?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had issues with accidents because once we had the former manse demolished. People can't find the driveway, and so they're getting into accidents trying to turn from coming if they're headed east on Beechmont. So they're turning left off, and they tend to get in accidents and bumps there because they can't find the driveway. And to make our properties even more confusing, because the exit is onto a existing city street, Brockman, that is one way, and people keep turning into the one way because they've missed the church. They drive by thinking that the entrance is where the current ground sign is. And so then we end up with a lot of traffic accidents and near misses as they turn on to Brockman, trying to figure out how to get to the building.
Okay. All right. Anything else, anyone from the church or Mr. Barnett, you'd like to say about why you think this is an appropriate, why the application is appropriate and the relief you're requesting is appropriate?
We believe that it is appropriate because, as Claire and Tanya stated, it's going to improve wayfinding for this facility and for the community at whole. The information that will be displayed on the digital display will benefit the community through letting them know about the outreach programs and work that they're doing, even with other churches and within the community, such as the church works with the Mount Washington schools to help get food to them, to students. So all of that would be things that would be put on there. So we think it would be a benefit to the community and to the overall appearance and safety of the property.
Could you tell me again, the existing sign, how much bigger are you making the new sign than the existing sign
So the
in terms
new
of square
sign,
feet?
it will be 16 square feet larger. So it'll be a total of 40 square feet.
So the existing sign is 24 square feet and the new sign will be 40 square feet. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And can you tell me more about the internal illumination and the LED components in terms of brightness and where that will be directed and any potential impacts on traffic and neighboring properties?
So this sign will be made by Watchfire, the digital portion. All of their signs come equipped with a photo cell that automatically adjusts to ambient light. And as you can see from the drawings, the sign is going to be oriented perpendicular to the road. And the property northwest, as you can see, is pretty far away. And then there is a tree line in between there. Properties across the street certainly wouldn't be affected by the light, especially since this sign can be utilized to turn off at a certain time. And I'm sure the church administration would be more than happy to agree to any conditions stating such.
Yeah, let me toss that out to the church. Do you intend to have this LED sign on 24 hours a day?
We're happy to turn it off at specific hours if that's appropriate. The high school next door leaves theirs on 24 hours and the Catholic church across the street has theirs on 24 hours. But we are happy if it will, if it's helpful to turn it off 10 or something like that at night and back on in the morning.
Okay.
Well, I want to add that I want to add that the sign right now, you cannot see it in bright sunlight until you're right on it. You can't read it, I mean. And across the street, a large portion of the property that faces ours across the street has a high wall fence. So that's why they wouldn't be bothered by that light at night.
Gotcha. Are you referring to the properties in Bellamede Court? Or are you talking about the one that's northwest?
It would be on the northeast end, or from the street that comes into Beechmont, where the light is. So
I
we have a
think that's-
light at what is now our exit road that is shared also with the church's school and parking. And so everyone exits out that way. And then there's a street across from there that also serves the church, but has housing on one side of the street. But the housing that's right, or the residences that are right across at that corner, have a very high wall on both sides.
Okay.
She's referring
okay.
to the houses on Brockman.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Got it.
The properties on Belmead that you were asking about, their windows do not face our building. They face east. So they have brick walls, solid brick on the side facing south or facing our property.
You think you muted yourself there at the very end of that
Oh,
statement.
sorry. So the ones on Belmead, the condos across there,
Yep.
the brick wall faces our property. And there's no windows on those sides.
Got it. Okay. All right. Unless there's anything else right now, I think I'll move to the public. Okay. I'll start with Ms. Cassidy.
Hello. My concern is actually with the sign in the back of the church. I've heard so far we've just talked about the sign on Beechmont, and I will agree exactly what the representatives from the church just said. It is actually a little hard to see that front drive into the church off of Beechmont. It's not really well lit at night, so I totally agree that some extra lighting there would be beneficial. And so I saw as part of the whole sign package, there is a sign that's proposed, the back entrance to the church near the Honeysuckle residential area. I think it's listed as location K.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go ahead and just pull it up
Okay.
for that. I know what sign you're referencing, so yeah, we're referring to this one here, correct, Miss Cassidy? Okay.
yes, I can't see it right now, and I'm trying to go back to that.
Oh. Can anyone else see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, I can see it now. My screen just got strange for a minute. Hold on a second.
No problem.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, in that area, yes, what you're circling, location K. So my property is adjacent to that. And then my neighbor across the street, who it would be butting right up to his property. He had wanted to be here this morning, but was unable to be. Our main concern, that's it. So it's 40 inches high at ground level. My main concern is just for safety. I'd love to have just some further evaluation on traffic through that area, and make sure we're not losing visibility around that corner. There's quite a bit of there's a lot of foot traffic through that area. There's also quite a bit of automobile traffic, especially at preschool pickup and drop off. All preschool traffic is routed through the residential area and into that back entrance of the church. So at times, there can actually be 2 rows of cars coming through Brockman Lane there and then circling around to go into the church parking lot. And then there's also some families, myself being one of them, that walks over to the preschool with our children to take them to and from school. And so a lot of times we're like cutting through two lines of cars there to get around that corner. So visibility around that corner, I think, is really important. There's also, there's McNick students that walk to and from school through there. There's McNick athletic teams that run through there on a daily basis. There's the parking lot is used as overflow for McNick football games. And so Friday nights you have high school students driving through there at high speeds sometimes, which I understand they're going to or are home from a football game, and it can get a little hairy. There's some late night activities in the parking lot that can be somewhat questionable. There's people that go in there and drive donuts and pretty often, especially if it's icy or anything. There's some late night meetups, cars that go over there and wait and have their lights off, and another car will meet up with them. Not that the sign has anything to do with that, but what I would want to make sure of is that traffic through there is not increased, and that particularly the visibility around that corner, just for safety of kids that are walking or play in that area. That's my primary concern, is the safety. And I'd say if the sign does go ahead as planned, I know Doug, that's his yard right there, that's his swing, requested, and I would full-heartedly agree with this request, just for some landscaping to be around the sign, because it would be a pretty large purple sign. And I'm not sure exactly, I couldn't tell from the map exactly where it would be in that area right there.
Yeah, let's ask Alex, can you
Okay.
shed some light on where this would go approximately?
So I guess I was actually just pulling some measurements on GIS. So bear in mind that these are approximate. I'm getting about 150 feet from the honeysuckle right of way, and in this measurement, I'm not as confident with, about 50 feet from that corner. It's relatively short sign. I think that it would be fairly really understandable to say that someone driving would not inhibit their and we do appreciate the concern, Kelly, for safety and obviously that is a concern of ours as well. And I think that size and the fact of the matter is that I don't believe that this is a public thoroughfare. I know there are some agreements, but I think that being said, I think the size is appropriate, and I think that we can make sure when we install and survey that it is set back far enough that anybody walking would be able to be seen from cars driving.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Is there
Barnett,
potential for
is this
landscaping around it?
real quick, is this the general area? Am I in the right ballpark here, Alex? Could you help me here or share your screen maybe and show me, is it going to be in this area? I thought from the site plan, that's what we were looking. Is that right? Is my Google Maps in the right area, Alex? Can you all hear? Can you all hear
Yes,
me?
it is.
He might be muted.
I think his screen may have froze on us.
Oh.
But okay, so it'll be somewhere near this pole. Is that right?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's in that corner area of that property. I'm not, we're flexible as to where that gets dropped. Sorry, I let go of my button. I appreciate the safety concerns, and I agree with Kelly that there's a lot of traffic. A lot of people treat our parking lot as their personal street, so they come through our parking lot in excess of 20 miles or 30 miles an hour, all times of the day and night. And we've been in contact with Kelly before, and that's why we leave the parking lot lights on. There's a lot of traffic in that area, so I'm concerned about. That's another reason to get the light, because people are missing it, and I'm afraid they're going to hit somebody. People walk their dogs through there. There's kids playing. It's just a kind of a crazy place to be, because the street Brockman is a city street, but they treat it like a driveway. So we've got quite an opportunity over here, I guess is the best way to say that, with the traffic patterns. And the McNick students do travel very quickly through there. But we certainly don't want to block visibility at all over there.
Okay.
And if we need to plant plants there to make it look better for him, that's fine. I don't.
Okay.
We're trying to be good neighbors.
Okay. So and Ms. Mins, I see that your hand's up. I'll give you a second, or I'll give you an opportunity here in just 1 minute. But first, I want to go to Mr. Sheldon. Mr. Sheldon, this is you reviewed the application for zoning compliance, which is why we're here today, to evaluate whether relief is appropriate, zoning relief is appropriate, or essentially a zoning exception is appropriate for this sign package. And as I read your staff report, it appears that the only thing in the sign package that is outside of the zoning code, or strays from the zoning code, is that front sign. Can you speak at all to whether, from simply a zoning perspective, this sign in the back, sign K, is legal and conforming?
Sure, I can. Generally, signage that isn't just kind of trying to identify or market the land use there. Those would be considered ground signs, for example. When signage is primarily directing somebody, so that you just convenience of traffic flow, of notifying a newcomer to someplace. Hey, this is where the gymnasium is, or in the context of a school, this is where the gym is. This is where the school, the school part, or this is where the church main, the chapel is, or whatnot. In a context like this, those are considered instructional signage, and they're exempt from the other requirements of the code as far as ground sign, as long as they comply with the dimensional requirements, which are namely that they be under 4 feet in height, and that the sign face area not exceed 6 square feet. And each of these signs, I had talked with Mr. Barnett long time ago about the project, and these signs are something like 5.8 or something like that. They're under 6 square feet. If you take the dimensions of the sign in inches, multiply them, and then divide by 144, it gives you under 6 square feet. One other thing to clarify, I hope, for everybody, is that, generally we would, qualify this street as a private street because Brockman does not, it leaves the public right of way, somewhere, over to the east, over maybe toward McNicholas, but by the time it goes through the back parking lot of the church and then comes into, connects with, I'm trying to bring this in too. When it connects with Honeysuckle at that point, that sort of panhandle, that's 50 to 70 feet in width is entirely on the same parcel as the church. So what I'm getting at is it's not public right of way. It's actually the church's property. There's probably some sort of an easement or something recorded, back possibly before the church was even built and probably before most of us were born. I haven't gotten into the details of, the legal part of that, but I can tell you that the church and that entirety of Brockman, once it goes, near the exit, starts to become entirely on the church's singular parcel ending in 246, and that it ranges in width, when it heads east or westward, northwestward toward Honeysuckle. At the point where it connects with Honeysuckle, which does appear to be a public, in part public street, public right of way, where it connects there, it's about 52 and a half feet wide. And then it gets a little bit wider or fatter as it goes toward the school. So, I mean, I think what we have here is what's basically a private street that crosses over, the church's land, and that probably has some kind of an easement written into it a long, long time ago. Because it's all one parcel. So,
Okay. Thanks, Trey.
I think that it would be easy enough, for the, so that we know that it's, speaking to Alex here and the folks at the church, I think it would be helpful with this sign anyhow for permitting purposes to have an idea of exactly where it is cited, references to the property line, because first of all, you want to make sure it's not on, it's Doug Morgan, on the Morgan's, make sure it's not crossing over into the Morgan's property. The way you had it depicted, it certainly looks as if it's on the school property, but let's be double sure about that. And the other thing is there is such a thing as a site triangle. Now, normally that is just limited to ground signs because they're typically, sorry about, there's a vacuum cleaner in the background. I cannot help that, it's maintenance, but anyhow, their ground signs can be considerably bigger sometimes than one of these smaller, 6 square foot, less than 6 square foot instructional signs, and they do have a limitation of a site triangle. That's not typically applied to these instructional signs because they're exempt, so they don't really count as a ground sign and within the letter of the law. But I think that in locating this and determining where the property line is, that it might satisfy Ms. Cassidy and any of her fellow neighbors and the Morgans to know where this is in relation to a property line, and also to make sure it's not going to obscure the view for drivers. I think it would be a fairly easy fix to locate this. Like I'm letting you know, Alex, that where the driveway itself is north of there, I mean, the church owns another 30 something feet all along there. So maybe it gets located on the north side instead of the south side. I don't know. That is up to you.
So Trey, let me jump in here.
Sure.
Knowing or understanding that, and this is for Miss Cassidy, for your benefit, for the church, knowing that this sign as proposed is technically legal, again, simply from a zoning perspective, I have just a limited capacity to do anything about it in this hearing or with my decision. Now, it sounds like the church is open to trying to locate this sign and design it in the way that is best for the community and for everybody. And so that sounds like a discussion that could occur offline outside the scope of this hearing. But again, just so you know, and as you read my decision and when I do finish that in the future, I don't actually have the authority to impact or change this sign in terms of size and things like that. So I just want to put that out there. Ms. Cassidy, based on all of that, is there anything else you want to tell us about this package or anything else today?
I would
Okay.
say that I do as a zoning official who also deals with the, building with trying to work in tandem with the building inspections department. We do need to know that it's on the church's property and
Right,
it's
of
a
course.
generalized locator of showing K. It looks like it to me, but Alex, if you can just when you get your permit done, pending the result in this hearing, while I would just ask that while Mr. Sturkey is writing and issuing his decision, that you maybe send some revised plans in that show where this is. Let's make sure we're not encroaching on the Morgan's property and that, they do that, because that is a legit concern.
That's yeah, and I apologize. That's sort of a given that this sign cannot be installed on someone else's property, and so that we'll need. Alex, why don't you jump in? Sounds like you have something to add.
So certainly as a business practice, we would never, Atlantic Sign would never, without permission of an owner, install a sign on their property. That was never our intention. And I certainly would, can say that it was not the church's intention. I just think it is a matter of how the drawings are displayed. We, as practice, always survey before we begin any install. We certainly would, and that would certainly occur here as well, like any other job. And we can provide those drawings to assure the, I believe you said Mr. Morgan, that his property would not be encroached on.
Okay, great, thanks. I wanted to also give. Ms. Cassidy, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I know Dana had her hand up too, so I'm curious what she was going to add. But I think I agree. This can be, I think, if there's just some communication with the Morgans, and maybe us just make sure moving forward that we know what's happening or the timeline of it. That'd be great.
Okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up from Ms. Nowak. All right, Ms. Menz, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Dana Menz.
Right. Yeah.
Did you want to add something? If so, I have to swear you in.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand and answer out loud? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. What'd you like to tell us?
Actually, I just had a couple clarifying questions. So I think Mr. Burnett answered that. I heard him mention before, I guess some technical issue cut out, that it was 150 feet from Honeysuckle. So I think you answered that clarification that you would provide more specific location of sign K. And even though it is legal, it's just good to know as far as, it does affect neighbors when there is any kind of construction or something happening on the church property. It does greatly, in fact, affect our traffic flow just from the neighbors being able to move in and out. So I do appreciate that communication effort that can happen from the church and from Mr. Burnett. As well as I had a question with the sign in front, which is what the variance really sounds like would be for, since it's moving from its current location. I don't know when you had shown, I briefly looked at the map, but you had shared that as well, Mr. Sturkey, that the location that it's currently at now is across from a walled area. And then when it moves, it'll be even more into the residential area. And I do agree how the church representative said that it is a dark area, and that I understand that completely. I will say just to the city in general, I know, for example, I was definitely not the only one. Many people said, like, when Guardian Angels put up their bright LED sign, it literally like blinded people coming down Beechmont Avenue because they had not adjusted their brightness. So I would just, I know that that's something that they will look into, but that, I mean, honestly, it was a safety concern. It took them a while to adjust the brightness of their sign. So just that awareness, and again, just that partnership with the neighbors and anyone using Beechmont Avenue, really, brightness is certainly understandable, but I know Mr. Barnett said it can be adjusted, but it's just a matter of actually doing that adjustment. Just would appreciate a real effort into keeping that keeping that in mind when all this is going on. And then I did have a question about, I don't know if anyone can tune into the community council when it comes to these kind of things. Has there already been communication with our Mount Washington Community Council? That used to be a big deal in the city of Cincinnati, where variances would just be partnered with the community council as well as going through the full legal process with the city. I didn't know what that process is right now or how that works.
Sure, I can speak on a little bit of that, and I've heard now the Guardian Angels sign mentioned a couple times during this hearing. I was actually the one who reviewed that application and approved it, but I did attach several conditions to that approval, including auto dimming software that reduces light levels and reduces glare based on ambient light levels, and limited the hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So to the extent that those things are not happening, they are out of compliance with their prior approval, and our zoning enforcement team can go out and try to address that. So I just wanted to let you all know that if you're seeing something that's inconsistent with that, that you can contact the city and we can approach them about enforcement and making sure that those conditions are complied with. Our current process for community council interaction is that we notify each community council in each neighborhood every time there is a zoning variance application in their neighborhood, no matter where it is. So the Mount Washington Community Council should have received notice that goes both via email, and we send a postcard to whatever address we have on file for them. And if it's an application they want to respond to or be heard on, they will send us correspondence or request more information. I don't believe, and I'll double check our case record here, but I don't believe that we heard anything back from them. And it's sort of, I think at this point, I think it would be safe to say that if the community council itself doesn't respond to our notices about the variances, and the applicant themselves or the owners don't approach the community councils, we often don't know what the community council stance is on it, or if they care about it at all. But that's just again, for your information, how the interaction with the community councils typically works on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Barnett, did you want to respond as well to some of Ms. Menz's comments?
Yes, actually, I had some reassurances for her. So this Watchfire brand, which we exclusively use at Atlantic Sign Company, I am not aware of what Guardian Angels used, but all of these come pre-equipped with auto dimming software. So if there ever was a scenario where it got cloudy really quick, it would automatically adjust. So I don't think you will see that issue with this brand of signage, and it's one of the main reasons why we go for that. Especially, it's what we use exclusively, but it is very beneficial for churches, as they're usually in residential areas, and it helps to mitigate any light pollution or blinding, which certainly I used to work at that Kroger, so I do know that sign is quite bright. So I think hopefully that can relieve some of your worries about that.
Thank you.
Yes.
And again, apologize. It's just some of the enforcement is complaint driven. There's just not the resources in the city to constantly monitor some of these things to make sure that they're always compliant, particularly when it comes to these signs. So we do rely on residents and citizens to notify us when they see things like this. But
the way that works is if you do still feel that the sign at Guardian Angels is blindingly, if it's still that way and hasn't been rectified, you can call 311. It's the city's hotline for complaints, and specify the address where the violation has occurred and what you do, and that will get routed to the building inspector. If they have any question about it as a zoning matter, the building inspector for that area will contact us, one of the zoning plan examiners or the zoning administrator, and ask if they have any doubt. And if the sign's simply malfunctioning and not dimming, then they can issue orders saying basically fix this, if that makes sense. So that's the process through which you could do a complaint that would address that. Is that
Okay,
helpful?
thank you. Thank you. I think in general, Guardian Angels has been much better, but it took a while for that to get adjusted. And I do know that both their sign and the McNicholas sign, just because I pass it constantly, have, they'll have like blotches or blocks, I should say, that are just malfunctioning in general on the sign. I don't know, Mr. Burnett, how much experience you have with that situation where it's not really the dimming, it's just something else is malfunctioning, I'm assuming, on the sign. And I'm sure that's a technical delay where they have to get the right technician out there to adjust whatever needs to be adjusted, I'm assuming, because those spots, I don't know if anyone else has seen that on signs, like large rectangles, it could be multiple large rectangles on the sign, will become brighter when they're malfunctioning. It just appears to me that way. So I just think there's a lot of maintenance involved, and I, would appreciate, I'm sure the church representatives it sounds like they are trying to be good neighbors as far as, they've already asked neighbors about the brightness and moving the sign. So I appreciate that. And just that ongoing effort, I think, needs to stay with these type of signs. It's not like just set them up and they're done. There's always going to be maintenance with them.
Yep. Okay.
We have technicians on staff that if there were ever any issues, the church could absolutely call us and we could take that. So we wouldn't have to wait they wouldn't have to wait as long necessarily as maybe Guardian Angels, say, whatever brand messaging center they have.
Okay. So moving along here, and we are starting to run short on time. So Trey, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to, from your staff report, you wanted to discuss about the actual, about the sign in the front. I know we discussed the one in the rear, but if there's anything you'd like to say about the front one, to give you a few minutes here to do that, and then I'll turn it back over to the church and Ms. Burnett to say anything in closing or otherwise before we adjourn. So,
Just
Trey.
my observation that this is for a residential area. This stretch of Beechmont is kind of connected between areas to the west and the east that are more commercial. It is a thoroughfare. I actually grew up in Anderson Township, and when I was a boy, there wasn't as much development out east, and I realized that that's probably something, traffic and so on, that folks have to deal with in the residential capacity here, and it may be undesirable in that point. But we do find that because of that traffic, you have situations like this for the church where they're just trying to identify themselves for wayfinding purposes for people who otherwise might just simply miss it, or because they have one way turn in and turn out. You certainly don't want not only do they have a right to identify themselves for wayfinding purposes, but there's a safety issue at a certain point when you have one-way entrance and exit through what appears to be a private street, at least on part of it. So those certainly come into play. I also find the area to be unique in that it's just an unusually high concentration of non-residential uses within the residential district. I detailed those in my staff report, but you have Guardian Angels Church and School. You have the Archbishop McNicholas campus, which is a pretty big campus there. You have the St. Mary's Seminary. There's Sands Elementary to the northwest, a couple 100 feet, and also the Methodist Church up there. And then you have the Mount Washington School and Community Center to the southeast. So if you were looking at this land area in the immediate vicinity, there are houses certainly within this, and it is a residential district, but the most of the land use predominating this is churches and schools of some matter like that as far as land use. And so I find that to limit them to the sort of older language of the zoning code, which doesn't address modern changeable copy in an electronic messaging center context, or dimming technology or anything. It's 20 years old and doesn't anticipate this new technology. And so in this situation, I find it equitable that they be able to have signage similar to those and those other ground signs that are illuminated internally, which seems to be the prevailing right of these other uses surrounding them. Certainly with McNick, we've got 2 ground signs and 2 wall signs. And I did note that I did make my recommendation of I did make my recommendation as far as conditions. Identical to what Mr. Sturkey imposed as conditions for guardian angels with regard to the dimming technology and also with regard to the hours of operation. That seems equitable and fair to treat these uses, comparable uses across the street from each other equally. So that's about all I have to add.
Okay, great. Thanks, Trey. Thanks for your testimony, your work on the staff report. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. By no means do you need to use all that time, but to the church and Mr. Barnett, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just thank you to everybody for this. I think it was a very productive conversation with the communities. So we appreciate your feedback and working with us on this. And it's important to us that we know how it will affect you and what we can do to help with that. So we appreciate that. We appreciate the city for their work with us on this project as well.
Okay, great. I think we'll leave it at that then. I want to thank everyone for their time and attention to this application, your testimony here today. It was very helpful for me as I review this. I'm gonna take a chance in the next 2 weeks to review all the application materials and the staff report and the testimony here today. I am inclined to approve the application for the sign out front. That approval, of course, would come with those conditions on the hours of use and dimming technology. I need to formalize any approval in a written decision. That's typically what takes a little bit longer as some of the cases queue up. But I will have it to you within 2 weeks. As soon as I finish that decision, I put it into a PDF and I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all have a copy of that decision really just moments after it's complete. If approved, Mr. Barnett, Trey will approve the zoning permitting on his end, and you all can take the next steps. Any questions from anyone about any of the process there? Okay, great. Well, thank you all again. If you have any questions or want a status update on the decision, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer any questions or give you that update. Otherwise, hope you